Hello my likable friend, I hope you're doing well. It's Yoshi here. In today's class, we are going to implement the Nano Project 3, creating a tellJoke app. Alright, let's go to the project description. The first requirement is that when you open the file in the browser, you should see the text I love jokes, beside it a button tell me a joke, and below it the text click on the button to read a funny joke. So when you open it in a browser, it should look like this. The last requirement is that when you click on the button, the bottom text should switch to a funny joke. Now, let's get hands-on. Fine, let's create our page for this project. Let's follow this sequence and create the page 03.html. Here, new file, page 03.html. And as you learned in another class, exclamation mark and then return key. Ooh, mommy. Let's add a page title, project 03, right? And now the body content. Now let's just check if the content is fine. Let me close the Explorer window and open the preview window. Very nice. We did it. The first item is done. Now our button should replace this content here by a funny joke. So far, nothing happens. Let us make it work. The third thing is adding an ID to the div tag, like this. Now, let me add a new tag at the end of the file, after the HTML closing tag. Script. And then inside it, now the last thing is adding a onclick in the button opening tag. Now it's supposed to work. Let us test. 3, 2, 1. Ooh, daddy. See? When I click on the button, now I see a funny joke. Of course, it's not a joke, right? But let us test again. Let me reload the page. When you click here, you kind of restart the page to its initial stage. Now, if you don't mind, I changed the joke for a real joke, for a real funny joke. Are you ready? Here we go. What is the most fluffy ham? Hamster. So as our button is working, we are done. So the last item is done. Nice. Now let's talk about the concepts and theories that helped us to implement the project. Have you noticed how did I type those two BR tags? BR. Return. BR. Instead of doing that, I did like this. BR times 2. And then return key. Take that. So it's a nice hack. It's a nice wizard. It's a very nice feature of VS Code. You type a tag name like div. How many times do you want? How many divs do you want? I want 3. So times 3. Return key. Ooh, daddy. Very nice this hack. Don't you agree? Let me talk about the script tag. Inside the script tag, we write out JavaScript code rather than HTML code. Yoshi, why do I need JavaScript? Excellent question, my friend. Let me teach you how HTML and JavaScript work together and why do we need both in our course. Think about HTML as a body, but a body with no brain, because the JavaScript code is the brain. And how the brain and the body work together, the brain says to the body what it has to do, right? Something similar happens when we use JavaScript and HTML together. In JavaScript, you code algorithms. It executes calculations and implements the business logic. In HTML, you just code the user interface elements. The JavaScript says to HTML, show something, hide something, change the color of something. And our JavaScript code is going to contain one or more functions. But what is a function? A function is something that your app is able to do. For example, an air conditioner often has those three functions: cool, warm, and ventilate. Our file has a script tag, so we have JavaScript code, and our JavaScript code has one function. Now, I'll teach you the anatomy of a valid function. In order to create a function, we should start with the keyword function. It tells JavaScript we are creating a function. The next step is setting the function name. To be a valid function name, it should follow some rules. The first rule is the first character can't be a number. Check out this function name. This is invalid as the first character is a number. It doesn't mean we can't add any number to a function name. We can, but can't be the first character. Take a look at this valid function name. There is a number, but it is at the end. And you can also have more than one number in the function name. If the number is not the first character, no problem. The second rule is no white space is allowed. You definitely cannot create a function with white space in its name. This function name is invalid. As you can see, there is a white space in its name. And the function name should follow the camel case naming convention. The camel case is a naming convention. It is pretty easy to understand. You always should start with a lowercase letter. If you have a second word for the function name, it should start with a capital letter. The rest of the letters should be lowercase again, and if you have a third word, it should start with a capital letter, and so on. After the function name, a pair of parentheses is required. In the upcoming classes, I'm going to teach you why do you need to write out them. So far, let's just accept they are required and we need them there. The next part is a pair of curly braces. Let me take some time to teach you some important thing about pair of curly braces. Whenever we have a pair of curly braces and between the curly braces some code, some lines of code, in that case we have a code block. The opening curly brace is the start of the code block and the closing curly brace is the end of the code block. The code block content may contain how many lines you need. So, in a JavaScript function, the opening curly brace is the start of the function, and the closing curly brace is the end of the function. But what our likable function does, we have a single line function. Let's first just read it. divJoke dot innerHTML equals a text between single quotes. The first word was divJoke. When you write out some code in JavaScript, it checks if it is a language keyword, like function for example. And you can rest assured that divJoke is not a JavaScript keyword. In that case, JavaScript tries to find something in the HTML code that is identified by divJoke. Can you see anything in our HTML identified by divJoke? See in our div tag. In our div tag, we added an attribute ID. It stands for identifier. By doing that, we're saying that this div tag has a kind of name, an ID, and its ID is divJoke. So when you do that in the JavaScript code, JavaScript is aware of who is divJoke, this div tag. The rules for a valid ID are the same rules for a valid function name. So, as it's a valid element identifier, we can type a dot, and after that, we can retrieve any information from the div or change anything in the div. In our example, we used the statement innerHTML. That statement means the tag content, and as after that we did equals some text, we are saying to JavaScript, hey, take the current content of the tag and replace it by this text. That's why when you click on the button, it's what we see. In runtime, JavaScript did like this. Who is divJoke? Alright, it is this div here. What I want me to do? Take it innerHTML. Alright, the keyword innerHTML is this. Do you want me replace it by this content? That's fine. So let me take this content here and paste it here. That's what happened actually. That's why what you write out here is what you see on the screen when you click on the button. Let's open the preview window again here. Now let's change the text here in the function for something like ha. See? Hit the like button. Tell me a joke. Hit the like button or whatever you want. I love Lady Gaga. Never mind. See? But why should I write out the text between single quotes? Have you noticed that our text starts with single quotes and ends with another single quotes? Let me close the preview window. It is because if we do not use quotes, JavaScript is going to look for a keyword, a statement, what, and then another keyword or statement is, and so on. But when we write out something between single quotes, JavaScript knows that we want a plain text, a text that is able to be displayed on the app, on the user interface. Still regarding functions, every function stays kind of idle, dormant. A function runs on if something invokes it or calls it, or in other words, a function runs if it is invoked or called. In our code, who asked the function to run? That's a very good question. It was the likable button, because we added the onclick attribute. As its name suggests, we are saying to the button what should happen when the user clicks on it. We are saying, hey Mr. Button, when the user clicks on you, please invoke, please call the tellJoke function. That's why when you click on it, we see the text in the div switching, because the function is called, the function is invoked, and it switches, it changes the content of the div. Yoshi, in the onclick attribute, you added a pair of parentheses after the function name. Are they required? Yes, they are. If you remove them, nothing is going to happen when you click on the button. In the upcoming classes, you are going to learn why they are required, okay? Yoshi, you mentioned sometimes the word attribute, tag attribute. What is it? A tag attribute is always added to the opening tag, as you can see here on button tag, opening tag, and then an attribute on click. Another tag with attribute is our likable div tag. The attribute here is the ID. What is a tag attribute for? Tag attributes are mostly used for adding data, behaviors, and for customizing elements' visual style. In our button tag, we added an attribute that changes the button behavior, the onclick behavior, or the onclick event. In div tag, we just added a data, an identifier to be able to be found by JavaScript. In the upcoming classes, we are going to learn about a tag attribute that allows us to change the tag's visual style. What are the frequently asked questions and common mistakes for that project? Teacher, can I use double quotes rather than single quotes to start and end my text messages? Sure, take a look. I'm going to replace the single quotes by double quotes. Double quotes here and also here. Let us test. Ta-da! Still working. Just keep in mind that if you start the text with double quotes, it's required to end with double quotes. If you start with single quotes, end with single quotes. Should I indent? Should I format the code? Very nice. If you are asking that, it means you notice that some lines, let's say, does not start from the beginning, like this line, the line 15. Doesn't start from the beginning, like this, or the line 24, same thing. right? Actually, this is not required, but professional developers often do that because our code is more clean, is more organized, is more easy to read when we add some space before the start of the line. In some programming languages, it is required to indent the code, but it is not in HTML and in JavaScript. Another cool detail regarding HTML is that white spaces are ignored at the beginning of the line. As you can see here, nothing changes. See? No matter how many white spaces I add at the beginning of the line, and only one white space between words work. Only the first white space works. Like this. I have one white space between click and on, right? You can see the white space here in the file and in the browser. But if I add a new white space like this, nothing changes. Let's add more. No matter how many white space, only the first one works. The rest is ignored. Yoshi, please help me. I click the button and nothing happens. Did I make a mistake? Well, when you click the button and nothing happens, the mistake is more likely to be some element's name. Let me close the preview window. First of all, make sure that the attribute here is onclick. Make sure you haven't missed any letter, like click like this, or like this, right? Or like this, right? Make sure it's written on click like this exactly, okay? Make sure that the function name you wrote here is the exact same name of the function's name. Every single letter should be the same. If your function name is tellJoke with capital J, and here you did like this, lowercase j, it is not going to work. It should be 100% similar. It should be just like the function name. The same here on div. Make sure the ID here is just like the ID here, every single letter. Again, if here is a capital J, here you cannot use a lowercase j. It is not gonna work. But Yoshi, uppercase and lowercase j are the same letter, isn't it? Not exactly. Let me teach you something. JavaScript is a case-sensitive programming language. It means that uppercase and lowercase letters are treated as distinct. That is, uppercase A is not the same of lowercase a, and capital F is not the same of lowercase f. Yosh, I just checked the function name, the ID, everything is fine, but it's still not working. Alright, in that case, the mistake might be related to the closing tags. Please check if you haven't missed any closing tag, like this script. If you don't have this tag, it doesn't work. Also check if the closing tag has a slash. Remember, the opening tag contains only the tag name, but the closing tag starts with a slash, right? So make sure if you have both opening and closing tag here on script, here on div, right? If you have the opening and closing tag, and on button tag, if you have both opening and closing tags. So Yoshi, it is still not working. The function name is alright, the ID is alright, all of the tags have both opening and closing tags, but it's still not working. So just check if you did exactly like this, innerHTML. Remember, JavaScript is case-sensitive language, so those 4 letters have to be uppercase, HTML. If one of them is not uppercase, it is not going to work. And don't forget about the inner. It should be 2 letter N's, not just one, or not letter M, so 2 letter N's. This is a common mistake. Feel free to write out a comment with questions, suggestions, or what else you want. Many thanks for watching. I hope you learned a lot. If you wanna thank me, just hit the like button and subscribe the channel if you haven't already. I do believe you can code.